The Los Angeles Lakers are on the brink of making history. With 2 more series wins, they'll be able to win their first championship since 2010 and 17th overall to tie the Celtics for the lead in total titles won. But they'll be the first to tell you that it's way too early to be celebrating. With both the Clippers and the Milwaukee Bucks eliminated in the second round, the Lakers remain as the lone favorite to win the title in a few weeks. And while most people believe that's what will end up taking place, things could go wrong at any moment. The Denver Nuggets aren't the league's most talented team when it comes to star power. Neither are the Miami Heat or the Boston Celtics. But they're all playing in the conference finals for a reason. And if 2020 and these playoffs have taught us a thing, it is to not take anything for granted. Welcome to Courtside. Today, we'll take a look at the challenges that stand between the Lakers and their quest to claim the Larry O'Brien Trophy. 2 of the 3 title favorites are out of the playoffs. So are the 2019 champions and most of the teams that looked like possible dark horses before the postseason started. 2 of the other 3 teams remaining weren't expected to make it this far, and the one who is already behind in its series. Everything would seem to indicate that this season's championship is the Lakers to lose. Bettors have them as their favorite by a wide margin, and most of the media and fans seem to be thinking the same way. And with arguably no other remaining player being capable of matching either LeBron James or Anthony Davis's level of talent, they could very well win the first NBA bubble championship. But this is the playoffs, and that means that anything can happen. The Lakers know this, and they also know that the job is not done. Coach Vogel recently said that any of the remaining teams could take them down, and he's right. The previous round just showed us what happens with the teams that don't play at their best despite their superior level of talent. Their next opponent is in the middle of a historic run of its own with their multiple 3-1 comebacks. The Nuggets might be the most resilient team in the league. They're talented, well-coached, and most importantly, they're hungry to keep going forward. In short, they deserve respect, just like the Heat and the Celtics do. But that doesn't mean the Lakers won't beat them. What it means is that for the purple and gold to win the championship, they'll have to continue playing better every time. And so far, that's exactly what they've been doing. After all, just a few weeks ago, we were all wondering whether they could make things work out in time for the playoffs. They were coming off a rather mediocre stretch in the seeding games where they finished with a 3-5 record, and followed that with a Game 1 loss to the Blazers that raised the alarms. After Game 1 against the Rockets, the story was the same, but as we already know, they quickly found a way to make things right and finished both series by winning 4 straight games immediately after losing the first. The reasons for the turnaround are easy to identify. They improved on defense, started making some shots on offense, moved the right pieces when it was needed, and of course, James and Davis kept on playing, just like is expected from them. In addition to this, their bench play has also made some important improvements. After being questioned during the regular season, the second unit has been able to have a positive impact on most games so far. Despite losing Dion Waiters to injury, Alex Caruso and Kyle Kuzma have been able to provide good offense and even better defense off the bench. Late-season acquisition Markieff Morris stepped up in the series against Houston, just like playoff Rondo did after coming back from injury and back spasms. Rookie Talen Horton-Tucker had a few good minutes in a couple of games, and the players that haven't received any minutes have turned into great cheerleaders to make sure that the team's energy is always high. Their chemistry is looking as good as it's ever been, which was on full display as LeBron completed an off-the-board lob pass from Rondo to close out Game 4 against the Rockets. But does that mean that they can't lose going forward? Certainly not, and they will most probably be tested in the following weeks. Not only on the court by their next opponents, but also by the bubble and by any other negative surprise that may take place during the rest of the playoffs. Despite not being talked about as often as it had been earlier on, the bubble environment is still a challenge for every team. Among the things that were seemingly bothering the Lakers during the seeding games, the confinement was a factor, as James often mentioned how tough life was away from his family. Then shortly after that, Danny Green was among the players that supported Paul George's comments about dealing with anxiety and depression in the bubble, saying that he had also been through it. And while they look like they've managed to deal better with the bubble, there's no way of telling whether the environment could hurt their play once again. Then there's their mental toughness. After the Clippers were defeated, some of their players talked about how their team hadn't been together that long and how they should only get better with more time. And while some consider this as an excuse, it's a factor to take into account, just like previous experience this deep into the playoffs is. James, Rondo, Danny Green, and JaVale McGee have previously won championships on their own. Dwight Howard once reached the championship round before being eliminated, and that previous experience from some of their players will help them, but as a group, it's the first time they're doing this. For Davis, Kuzma, Caruso, and even Coach Vogel, it's their first time as favorites, and that comes with additional pressure. That same pressure has gotten the best out of teams like the Clippers and the Rockets, and its impact must be acknowledged. But the good thing for them is that their best player is not only very good at winning, but also at handling the pressure. Just a few years ago, LeBron was able to guide a Cleveland team with even less experience than this team to the finals, and then to a title in the following year. And when LeBron is making sure that the Lakers live up to their expectations, there are very few things that they can't do well, and the numbers show that. During the first two rounds of the playoffs, they have outscored their opponents by 13 points in the point per game and 18.3 points per 100 possessions during the opening quarter of games, and have an 8-0 record after leading by double digits. They lead the league in the rate of possessions in transition and in the rate of shots taken during the first 6 seconds of the shot clock, while also scoring 119.3 points per 100 possessions in all their games other than Game 1s. On the other end of the court, they're leading the league in both deflections and blocks per game, and when it comes to starting lineups, their group of James, Davis, McGee, Green, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope went from being one of the worst during the seeding games to outscoring its opponents by 21.5 points per 100 possessions. This dominant effort has been led by the star duo of James and Davis, who are putting some incredible numbers up of their own. AD is the leading scorer among remaining players, and LeBron is averaging close to a triple-double. The two stars, who recently became the first pair of teammates to be named to the All-NBA First Team since 2007, made history after defeating Houston by also becoming the first pair of teammates to both have averaged over 25 points and 10 rebounds in a playoff series in 60 years. Their success throughout the season has been something gratifying for them, as AD recently talked about how his time with the Lakers has been everything he envisioned, and James mentioned how his goal since arriving in LA was to take the franchise to a level where it would be contending every year. If they're able to remain locked in and healthy and continue performing at a dominant level, they'll give themselves a good chance to bring home another title. If they do so, they'll put themselves in a position to become the franchise with the most championships in the league in the following years, and LeBron will be able to add more rings to his collection and perhaps a Finals MVP trophy with a third different team, something that has never been done before. And while we can't guarantee that they'll be able to do it, as the surprises in these playoffs might keep coming, we do at least expect a great series against the Nuggets team that will do everything in its power to stop them. But if the Lakers make it through the Nuggets, what comes after that will become an excellent story. If they face the Celtics in the finals, the league's greatest rivalry will be revived for the first time since 2010, with a chance to become the first bubble champion in the line. And if it's the Heat who make it out of the East, it'll be a match between a team guided by star power and a squad that got there with a total team effort that resembles the 2011 Mavericks and the 2004 Pistons. Not to mention that a series between LeBron and the team with which he won his first championship would also be a great story. So the purple and gold have a chance to make something incredible happen, regardless of who might be standing in front of them. That has been their goal since their season started, and they know the job is not finished yet. But as fans, all we can do for now is wait to see whether the Lakers will be able to fulfill that role as championship favorites or not, and enjoy the few weeks of basketball that remain in what has been the strangest season of all time. To sum up, playoffs have always produced major surprises throughout the years, and 2020 has only made things more intriguing than ever before. But as the last powerhouse remaining, the Los Angeles Lakers are looking to finish the season with a fairy tale ending. It hasn't been an easy road for them so far, and it should get even harder in the following weeks. But if they're able to perform as they're expected to, it might be too hard for anyone to stop them on their quest for the championship trophy. But now, how do you feel about the Lakers? Do you think any of the teams remaining might be able to beat them in a 7-game series? Let us know in the comments. We hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, give us a like and subscribe to our channel for more NBA content, because we are Courtside.